All about Doug Pederson's press conference. No pun intended that I said press. Zay Jones and Calvin Ridley, backwoods. All of this stuff going on, man, and we're going to talk about it here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, good people. What's going on with you? Welcome to another edition of Locked On Jaguars. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. We're at your team every day, and we thank you for making us your first listen. Quick reminder, we are free to subscribe to on our YouTube page at Locked On Jaguars. Make sure you tap in, hit the subscribe button, the bell, and hit the like button too, right? But if you hit the bell, you get notifications when and wherever we drop an episode, and you can tap in. And if you're riding around in your car, sitting at your desk, and you're listening you listen to the podcast on another platform, make sure that wherever that is, you tap in every single day. Shout out to the everydayers. We appreciate you being everydayers, and you can be an everydayer if you join every day too. I gotten some heated stuff yesterday on social media, and we're going to talk about it today, and I'm going to try to do my best without emotion. I'm just like anybody else. I get emotional, especially when people make accusations or try to treat me like a jukebox and thinking you can put a coin in me and make me say what you want me to say, and that's never going to happen. So some people got the block button, but that's okay. I ain't that important, I guess, anyway, based on the way we interacted yesterday. I guess I don't know what I'm talking about, but I will, for those that want to know, explain everything today. So Doug Pederson mentions executions, not Press Taylor. I'm going to explain that in depth, okay? Zay Jones gets arrested. Zay, it ain't so, especially for what they charged him with, which is misdemeanor domestic violence. That's almost an oxymoron charge, isn't it? Domestic violence is so serious, you can never really think that it would just be a misdemeanor, but thus it is. I've heard little bits and pieces from what people say. Folks read police reports on the radio. I didn't hear that stuff, but apparently snatched somebody's chain, snatched his kid's mother's chain off her neck or something, and there was a mark there. And I'm not downplaying it. I'm just going to let the judicial system play itself out before we do a whole bunch of judgment based on like how serious it is or what the league is going to do about it. And then Calvin Ridley and backwoods. I guess some smoke shop around here in Jacksonville really bought some backwoods, and they, I guess they leaked it. And now Jaguar fans did what Jaguar fans do. They reached out and touched him and gave him a bunch of bad reviews. But I'm going to talk about Ridley and what that means for him. I'm going to talk about Doug Pederson, though, because it's ironic. I don't know if ironic. I don't know if it's irony or not, but just yesterday in his press conference, Doug Pederson stood up while I was beefing and arguing with people between me going to the cemetery to complete my sister-in-law's transition yesterday. There were a lot of people that I think wanted Doug Pederson to come up and just smash on Press Taylor or take the reins of the play calling, which he very well might do. And a lot of people got mad at me yesterday because, see, I'm the type, I go right to the source. The source for all of this, whether you think the calls are bad or not, and I don't reduce being an offensive coordinator to just play calling. And I think that's where the difference between me and a lot of people that think they know what the solution to this issue is, that's where that comes in. Doug Pederson removed himself. A lot of people believe that Doug Pederson just wanted to help Press Taylor get a job. And that wanting to help Press Taylor get a job is sacrificing the Jaguars season and their offense and Trevor Lawrence and wasting Trevor Lawrence. That's the crux of the way everybody feels about that, right? That may be true. But I also think that one of the reasons Doug Peterson did that is so he could monitor and watch other parts of the team and be more of an overall coach. The reason why I think we have to emphasize that I don't just reduce being an offensive coordinator to being a play caller is because I got friends that do that for a living and coach for a living, and they told me they're in the facility from 5 a.m. to 8 o'clock at night working on game plans. They called the game for 3 hours on Sunday, and half of that is spent on defense. So it's an hour and a half versus 6 days a week where you're going for 14 hours. That's 84 hours that you spend on your game plan and teaching and doing film work with your players. And then you spend an hour and a half going through it. And then when they come out looking discombobulated, I would much rather say, I don't want to talk about play calling. I want to talk about teaching and preparing those guys to come out and be ready to go. And ultimately that falls on Doug Peterson and Press Taylor, but ultimately Doug Peterson. I'm not going to sit here and point to them like there's some married couple and the husband and the wife are equally responsible. This isn't that kind of structure. The head coach is responsible, especially when the offensive coordinator is his understudy for over a decade and is handpicked. Yeah. So that's why the onus is on Doug Peterson. The onus is also on Doug Peterson. And the answer from the fans is, we know that we just want Doug to get rid of him. We think he's the problem. My point is how do you know that? When the coach stands up right in front of the podium and right in front of everybody and immediately points out like 8 to 10 mistakes that the guys made, like fumble, like that wasn't on a play call. Holding, that wasn't on a play call. That sack wasn't on a play call. If you want to talk about the 3rd and 4th and 1 stuff, Doug was doing that last year when he had the team. And folks said he needed to stop doing it. Doug's been doing that in Philly. So if you want to get mad at those plays, the handful of plays, blame it on Doug. If you want to get mad at how they're being taught and how they're prepared and what the strategy and the game plan is, that's on Doug because he has to sign off on it. You know what these coaches do every single week and every day of the week when they're getting ready for the game plan? Doug Peterson is standing there with a sheet and a headset. If Press Taylor is about to call a bad play and Doug doesn't veto it, or at some point when the defense is on the field, Press, let's do this and let's do this and let's do this. I know it's your game, but we need to do this and do that. If he's doing that and Press is doing what he says, it's on Doug. If he's not doing that and just letting Press do what he wants to do, it's on Doug. I know what it is, man. There's a love fest with Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson. They can't do any wrong. If something is going wrong, it has to be somebody else's fault. Well, I beg to differ, and nobody's going to tell me otherwise. And I hate to sound like this, but Locked On pays me to do this podcast. They don't pay you to do it, so I'm going to say what I want to say. And I'm going to post what I want to post on social media, and I'm not going to have to defend it against anybody. But what I won't do is sit here and speculate like I know what the hell's going on all week. And I know like Doug Peterson just walking to the press, go do the game plan. We'll see you Sunday. And right before the game goes, what you got? No, he's sitting there doing it. I think this is the reason why, and I might even post this audio at some point in a short little video and post it on social media. This is the reason why the minute that was announced right before the first game, I said, why did they do that? Because what happens is, and I hate to say it like this, and I'm not telling you I know either definitively because I don't, but because me and other people are in that building, I don't know how in the hell people who aren't in that building come to conclusions that they come to when we can't even come to those conclusions. Doug Peterson hasn't given any. And see, here's another thing. He comes from the Andy Reid tree, right? So when people didn't give Eric Bieniemy a job, you know why they didn't give Eric Bieniemy a job? Because they say, well, it's Andy Reid's offense. Even when they saw on film Eric Bieniemy over there calling plays, even when Andy Reid has sat there and said he calls the plays a lot of times, he's calling plays, folks would still, and fans included, everybody knows that's Andy Reid calling that offense. Well, how come? Because this one doesn't work, and Doug says he's calling plays. He's calling plays. It's not me. It's us together. You believe it. You don't believe Andy Reid when he says it's because there's a lot of success and there's a lot of good things. And I'll tell you something else. You can't say anything bad about Andy Reid because their offense this year hadn't looked good either. And you know what everybody said? They missed Tyreek Hill. They won a Super Bowl last year without Tyreek Hill. And the offense was fine. They scored 38 points on Philly in the Super Bowl. They're a year removed away from Tyreek Hill. Blame Andy Reid now. Airbnb isn't there. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. When someone is revered and loved for whatever reason, folks have seen them be successful. They always assume that it's something else. It's not sometimes. It's the person that's responsible. And Doug Pederson will stand right up and say, we need to coach better. And that includes him. One of the things he mentioned yesterday in his press conference was he tells guys, hey, man, I want you to do more away from the building. And I'm going to paraphrase that because I don't actually have the words right in front of me. What are you doing? Are you looking over the game plan? Are you looking at film? Are you doing more? Are you getting after it? And those are, so I'm going to talk about that because he mentioned that and he mentioned execution. And then two things happened in 24 hours that are the exact opposite of what he was talking about when he was saying what guys should be doing. I'll tell you about it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. After I let you know about Jase Medical. Now, I'm going to give you an example of something that happened to me once. I went to Ohio, right? And didn't realize the drugstores were all the way in the suburbs, and the ones in Cleveland, closed early. And I wasn't used to the pollen, and my eyes swelled up. It looked like I got stung by 12 bees. I couldn't breathe, and we had to drive on the other side of Shaker Heights, which is like 30 miles from where we were, just to get me some medicine. See, if I had the Jase case, that wouldn't happen because the Jase case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get a Jase case is fill out a simple online form. In some cases, jump on a quick call with one of our board-certified physicians. That's right. The Jase case is the truth, and you won't have to be caught like I was without medicine with your throat all swole up and closed up. Jase is unbelievable. Man, please make sure you order your Jase case. Get your Jase case at Jase Medical and make sure you don't get caught like me out there without the medicine you need. Make sure you get a Jase case at Jase Medical. All right, man, we rolling along here, Locked On Jaguars, talking about Doug Pederson, some of the things that he mentioned yesterday in the press conference. Talked about execution. Mentioned nobody expected them to be able to come out and just bully the 49ers front. I don't think they expected it. In fact, the way that they play, they do want their guys to fight. They want them to put up resistance because you put up resistance in just that one little block or that little bit of time that Trevor needs, he'll get rid of the ball and he'll find somebody. I think the Jaguars' game plan going into the game the other day was this. If we just get a little bit of time, our receivers are better than their corners. If we just get a little bit of time, we can start making them pay for their aggression with misdirection. If we can block them just a little bit, we can make them pay for their over pursuit and start going the other way with some screens. It worked on a couple of drives. The drives with D'Anthony Johnson was in the game. 25. I'm sorry if I just said his name wrong, but it really, really helped in that area. They were doing it. They were moving the ball, and then you get down there and they get cute, and you get a tip ball, and that's what happens. That's the kind of stuff that happens when you just can't line up and block people. And that's why I focused on the offensive line yesterday. And I called Trent Baalke. And shout out to the person that thought I was being an idiot. D'Ernest Johnson. That's right. My name is Anthony. His name is Ernest. Okay, D'Ernest Johnson. But that's why I was so quick to call out Trent Baalke because I said this is a game of a team that decided to go for it in free agency in the draft, and a team that didn't. And the team that went for it in free agency already had more top-end talent, and they still went for it. And Trent exercised patience. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's what he did. I said they did it in free agency, and they did it at the trade deadline. And then somebody wants to just point out, and this is the thing that I keep telling people too, when you hit me back and you want to engage, don't just point out the free agency part of it. Well, we didn't have any draft picks. The whole post said free agency, and free agency is where you're going to land 5, 6, 7 guys, or at least 3 or 4. At the trade deadline, you're getting one guy. So it's more about the free agency part of it than it is about the trade deadline. It's also more about the mindset and the willingness of this team to say, we like our group. And you heard them say that over and over and over again. And my point is you got to know yourself. You got to know what's in your house. You don't have to tell everybody about it, but you have to know if that group is really good enough. Are you being optimistic? Or did you really expect the offensive line that you rolled onto the field, and I did not, was going to be able to go up against a top-tier team like San Francisco, Philadelphia, Kansas City, and move those people out of the way when you need them to? Not dominate them, but just do enough. Like the Bengals did, a couple of years in a row against the Chiefs. Like the Bills did in a barn burner. They might have the advantage, but is that advantage big enough that you can't get anything else done? Well, the Jaguars offense has struggled all season. And one of the reasons that they've struggled is because the offensive line, they haven't been whole, and we've been giving them the benefit of the doubt. Apparently the other day they were supposed to be whole for the first time, and then they screwed up. So when they talk about execution, they're talking about guys being able to make plays. They're talking about guys being able to face their competition and their opposition and do at least enough to give themselves a fighting chance. My point is, I don't care how much you want to fight. If you can't block them, you can't beat them. That's why I pointed back at Balky, and that's why I pointed back at Doug Pederson. Are they calling plays a certain way because they know they're deficient on physicality on the offensive line? Perhaps. I don't know that definitively, but my opinion could be that that's what it is, and it'd be based on what I think it is. You can yell all day about Press Taylor. If he doesn't feel like it, see, this is what I want folks to know. If Press Taylor is calling a game and Doug Pederson is sitting there communicating with him and listening to every single call he's making and he's not stopping it, well, Press ain't gonna stop himself. He's not. Doug has to do it. And while fans are yelling for Doug Pederson to do it, I'm saying it's Doug Pederson's ultimate responsibility. So what if he doesn't disagree with him? And that's what I keep trying to tell. If he disagreed with him, he would stop it. What if he doesn't? If he doesn't disagree with him, and if Press is making these calls and Doug is going, that's what I would do. Or maybe Doug had just talked to him while the defense was on the field and say, let's go in this direction, this direction, and this direction. And he says, you got it, I got it. We're going to do this and this. And Doug is sitting there listening to it. Maybe it's the exact same Doug would do, and it's just not working because they're not executing. Or maybe it's a bad game plan from the very beginning. And that is on Doug Pederson. It's not rocket science, man. It's not personal. It ain't nothing for you to be trying to pull up on somebody about. I'm sorry I had to block some people because you want to put words in my mouth and not understand exactly what I'm saying. It is on Doug Pederson. Go ask Shad Khan who it's on. Even if you think it's that one guy, it's Press Taylor, Shad will tell you that's Doug's problem. Because you know what? You don't want to put him in that position. You made the choice to do it. You work with him all week on the game plan. So he's not going to go to Press Taylor first. He's going to Doug Pederson. What's wrong with your boy? That's what he, not in those words, but that's what it is. Zay Jones got arrested and had a court appearance and had a $2,500 bail on misdemeanor domestic violence. Does that have an impact? First of all, domestic violence is very serious. Don't put your hands on female. Don't put your hands on a woman. And that's the first thing. Hopefully he's not the type of person that does stuff like that. And then we have to get to, are you putting yourself in certain positions? And, sometimes if you have a toxic situation, you got to, as a professional, you got to keep yourself out of it. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. We'll see how it goes. Things like this don't fall on deaf ears with the commissioner. We'll just have to see. But football is not the priority. They're going to have to figure out exactly what they need to do in order to be competitive and figure out how to get Calvin Ridley going. We'll talk about that in segment 3. I guess somebody released some video or snitched on Calvin Ridley. I guess they're calling it snitching. I don't know why they would even release it unless Calvin Ridley cursed him out or threw something at him or something. But Calvin Ridley apparently bought backwoods. If y'all don't know what backwoods are, your boy gonna tell you. I'll be your hood tour guide and tell you exactly what backwoods are used for the most part. In just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. First, I have to let you know about FanDuel, man. It is not too late for you to get in on FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. You heard that? New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. And y'all are my official partners here on Locked On Jaguars because you are everydayers. And I have to let you know as well that Locked On, listen to this. Locked On NFL Kickoff Live each Friday. That's right, Friday at 2 Eastern on every Locked On NFL YouTube channel. Host Anitra Baptiste, Jarvis Davis, and Kyle Krabs will break down every game on the NFL slate to get you ready for your team's matchup, your fantasy lineups, your betting angles, and more. Plus, get the in-depth local analysis from our stable of NFL hosts across the country who knows these teams better than anyone else. Find Locked On NFL Kickoff Live every Friday at 2 Eastern, at 2 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On NFL YouTube channel. All right, let me tell you about this backwoods situation. Don't know, didn't see the video, don't know much, but backwoods are known by the people on social media. Are backwoods illegal? No, they're cigars, come in a little pouch, right? Most of those people commenting on backwoods will tell you that it's not what they're used for, that the tobacco is dumped out and something else is put in it and it's smoked, right? That's the assumption. They done jumped all over that dude that put that out there, that Calvin Ridley came by there and bought him some backwoods. Well, what does that mean? This ain't necessarily the stuff that Doug was talking about doing away from work or on your own time. I'm not going to be naive and tell you that I don't think that a whole bunch of athletes do exactly what people are insinuating that Calvin Ridley is doing or is up to. I don't know how this affects his exempt list or whether he was on the commissioner exempt list, if he's still on, or once you're in the program, are you all? I have no idea. All I tell you is, from an optic standpoint, it doesn't look good. Just like even though the Zay Jones situation is more serious for real life reasons, none of this looks good on the day that your coach is standing up there saying it's about execution and guys putting in the extra work and figuring out how to do this and that, and then the extra work that guys are putting in are getting them in the police blotter or getting them talked about on social media because of insinuations. Not going to sit here and point a finger at condemnation at anybody without knowing all of the facts, so I won't do it. It's just that this is not what we were supposed to be talking about right now. We're supposed to be talking about the Titans trying to get back on track, trying to get this team on board. Remember, the word culture kept getting thrown around a lot. Remember, the word fit kept getting thrown around a lot. Well, do they have it? Do they have a culture? Do they have a fit? Was everybody tricked and fooled because everybody was playing nice and it was all about enthusiasm? I know we just want these football playing Jesses, man, that don't do anything, get in any kind of trouble when they get off the field, right? I get it. I'm the same way. I feel you. But stuff happens. Stuff happens. They got to find a way. They got to figure it out, man. The only chance that they have is to execute better. If the play calling isn't going to change, the only thing that they can do is go out and make those play calls work by executing better. And on tape, they do a lot of boneheaded stuff. They do a lot of silly stuff, especially along the front. Maybe though it's what they do because it's all they're capable of doing, and that goes back to, well, you should have got better people. And whose responsibility is that? So when you say, well, somebody called me some kind of name yesterday and told me I was blaming the GM and not the players. No, I'm blaming the players. If you got a 6-month-old puppy and he's still pooping in the house, the owner didn't train him properly, did he? You get mad at no dog for not going to the bathroom or letting you know when you got to go to the bathroom when you ain't ever taught him how to do it. The dog ain't got no learning disorder. The trainer has a teaching disorder. And players will do what you allow them to do. And if they're not just doing what you're allowing them to do, if you're not allowing it and they're still doing it, it's either one or two things. They can't do what you're asking them to do, which means they don't need to be there, or they're not good enough at it, or they tuned you out, which is another problem. That's on you. Which one is it? Are they tuning you out, or are they just not good enough? Now, if you tell me they had a bad day, I get it, but they've had a bunch of bad days all year. And the thing about those bad days is the rest of the team was able to lift them up, and they were able to win some close games against teams that some of them think they're pretty good. Buffalo don't look that good now, but teams that don't let you get away with that stuff don't let you get away with that stuff. And guess who those are? Those are the teams that I told you that they're going to have to beat in order to get to the goal that we ultimately want, which is the championship. They made it to the final 8 last year. We were trying to get them into the final 4. Are we good enough to get over that hump and compete with those teams? Well, those teams make mistakes unforgiving. You pay a price. You pay a toll. You pay a tax when you make those mistakes against good teams. The Jaguars have been living off turnovers, led the league in turnovers caused. Good teams don't do that. You got to find something else to beat them with. They ain't going to just give you the game. And I said at the beginning of the season and in the offseason, we are now past and beyond measuring this team against bottom dwellers. We're trying to measure this team against the people that they're going to have to run through in order to get a championship. And when you do that, there's higher expectations. You can take your emotion out of it. It's either you're good enough or you're not. The only chance they have to overcome any shortcomings that they have, because you can't fix them now. Trade deadline's gone. There ain't nobody walking around on the street that you can just pick up that's going to help you get rid of your offensive line woes and your lack of a real tall receiver and the guy who can't threaten the seam, and you can't even get the ball down the field. There ain't nobody walking around here that you can acquire you can't even trade for anybody. You got to fix that in the offseason. That's why I pointed at Trent Baalke. All right. Maybe some of the guys you have aren't as good as you think they are. They're good enough to win you 10 or 11 games, but they're not good enough to win a championship. There is a difference in this league, and we just got to figure it out. I don't have all the answers. The only chance they have, though, right now is playing with who they have and those guys executing. And all hands have to be on deck. You can't be in jail. You can't be sitting here having all of these other distractions. You got to be there. You got to be healthy. You got to be bought in. You got to want to execute. This is what we got, man. We're going to take our best shot. I'm going to hold that block a little bit longer. I'm going to do whatever. If they got to start leaving a tight end in the chip, the 49ers rushed 3 people up there and sacked Trevor Lawrence. They got to tackle better. They finally met a team that were going to challenge their ability to tackle. Debo, McCaffrey, Ayuk. Take better angles. Kittle. Them dudes are hard to bring down, man. All right, so hopefully I explained that to you enough. We went over Doug Pederson, what he mentioned and what he didn't mention in his press conference. Zay Jones gets arrested, and then we talked about backwards a little bit too much. Make sure you tap in here tomorrow here on Locked On Jaguars, and make sure that it's your team every day by showing up every single day. I'll do the same, and I'll keep dropping this content. If anything breaks, I will let you know. You guys make sure you take care of each other. We'll see you next time here on Locked On Jaguars.